Olivia Bennet felt a flutter of nerves mixed with anticipation. Her cousin's wedding was taking place in a lavish Manhattan ballroom, and as always, her inner organizer thrived on the energy of such grand events. But today her role went beyond arranging flowers or ensuring perfect seating. She had prepared a personal gift for the newlyweds. A short but breathtaking gymnastics performance that would culminate in a dramatic finale, one that no guest could forget. Dressed in a sleek, shimmering leotard that hugged her athletic frame, Olivia took a deep breath. Her heart raced, not from stage fright, but from the excitement of performing something she loved in front of a crowd. The music swelled, and she stepped onto the small stage area set up in the center of the ballroom. Spotlights highlighted her every movement, casting shadows that danced across the polished floor. From the moment she began, she was a vision of fluid motion and controlled power. Her hands spun gracefully, her legs cut the air with precision, and every leap seemed to defy gravity. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience as she executed flips and spins with perfect form. Olivia's eyes briefly scanned the crowd, and that's when she saw him. He was standing near the back, leaning casually against a marble pillar. Ethan Caldwell. She'd heard the name whispered among the guests long before this moment. A billionaire with a reputation for charm, influence, and danger. But none of the rumors mattered now. What mattered was the way he was looking at her. He wasn't just watching her perform. He was observing her with a focused intensity, as if trying to memorize every line of her body in motion. Olivia felt a strange mix of flattery and nerves. Her final move approached, a high twisting leap ending in a perfect landing. She held the pose for a heartbeat, chest heaving from exertion, and the room erupted in applause. Some guests whistled. Others clapped with wide-eyed amazement. She bowed deeply, smiling, then collected herself and began to retreat toward the seating area. In her rush to find her designated table, Olivia misread the seating chart, or perhaps the chart was wrong, and ended up approaching the table at the far side of the room. The table was unlike any other. Sleek black linens, crystal glasses reflecting the chandelier's sparkle, and a subtle aura of authority. And sitting there, clearly expecting someone of distinction, was Ethan Caldwell. Time seemed to slow. She hesitated, hoping no one would notice the mistake. But Ethan's gaze locked on hers. His eyes were dark and magnetic, holding a glimmer of amusement and something else, something daring. She felt an involuntary shiver run down her spine. Is this seat taken?" she asked, her voice a mix of embarrassment and curiosity. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured subtly with a hand, an invitation laced with command rather than courtesy. Olivia sat down, aware of every movement he made. The air between them seemed charged, almost electric. As the waiter poured champagne, Ethan leaned closer. Olivia could feel the warmth of his presence, the faint scent of his cologne, a mixture of cedar and something sharp, almost dangerous. Then, almost imperceptibly, he bent forward and whispered directly into her ear. "You've just stolen the entire room's attention. And now you've stolen mine. Come with me tonight. Anywhere. Anywhere you want. I'll make it happen." Olivia froze. The words weren't just a flirtation. They were a proposition that felt impossible, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Her heartbeat quickened and her cheeks flushed. She wanted to pull away, but something deep inside made her linger, wanting to hear more, to see what this enigmatic man could possibly offer. He smiled, almost predatory in its calm confidence, then returned to his glass as if nothing had happened. Olivia's mind raced, questions and curiosities colliding. Who was this man? Why was he so intent on her? And how could a single whisper create a thrill so intense it left her breathless? As the rest of the evening unfolded, she couldn't stop sneaking glances at him. Every time he caught her eye, he gave the slightest nod or half-smile, each one laden with promise and challenge. The idea that she had merely sat in the wrong seat seemed absurd now. Somehow this accidental mistake had placed her at the epicenter of a new, dangerous, and utterly irresistible world. By the time the first course was served, Olivia knew one thing with certainty. Tonight, nothing would ever be ordinary again. An Ethan Caldwell millionaire enigma, and the man who had whispered impossible words into her ear, was the reason why. The evening moved forward, Yet Olivia found it hard to focus on anything other than the man at the table. Ethan Caldwell. The memory of his whisper lingered like electricity across her skin, sending shivers through her every time she remembered it. She tried to act normal, chatting politely with family and friends, laughing at jokes she barely heard. But her eyes kept drifting toward Ethan. He was sitting with ease, a glass of champagne in his hand, casually talking to someone, yet his gaze always seemed to find her, even from across the room. At one point the bride approached her, effusive and full of excitement. "Olivia, that performance was incredible. Everyone is talking about it. Honestly, you stole the night," she said, hugging her tightly. Olivia smiled, trying to brush off her pounding heart. "Thanks, it was fun. I just hope they liked it." "They loved it." "And?" The bride glanced toward Ethan's table, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "I think someone else noticed it too." Olivia followed her gaze. Ethan was watching her, a slight smirk playing on his lips. He raised his glass in a quiet toast and then leaned back, as if daring her to look away. Her cheeks warmed. She had no idea what he wanted, but something about his confidence was magnetic. Later, as guests began to move toward the dance floor, Ethan stood and walked toward her table. Olivia's stomach twisted into knots. She wasn't sure if she was ready for whatever this man might do. "May I have this dance?" he asked, his deep voice smooth but commanding. Olivia hesitated. She barely knew him, yet the pull she felt was impossible to ignore. Sure," she said, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks. He took her hand gently, but there was a firmness in his grip that made her pulse quicken. On the dance floor, the music played softly around them, but it was as if no one else existed. "You were incredible tonight," he said, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "I've never seen anything like it." "Thanks," Olivia replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I just wanted to do something special for them." Ethan's eyes held hers. There was a weight in his stare, something possessive but thrilling. Then he leaned slightly, his lips brushing near her ear. "I can promise you this," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "Tonight is only the beginning. And I don't do beginnings halfway." Olivia felt her knees go weak. The words sent a thrill through her, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. She wanted to pull away, but she couldn't. Something about him made her feel alive in a way she had never felt before. As the song ended, he didn't let go. Instead, he pulled her closer, their bodies almost touching. His hand lingered at the small of her back, firm but gentle, as if claiming her space without words. "You have no idea how much I want to see you again," he said, his voice low and certain. "No one moves like you. No one." Olivia swallowed hard, her mind spinning. She barely knew this man, yet his confidence and intensity were impossible to resist. I don't even know you," she stammered. "Yet," he said with a slow smile. "I know enough." The night went on, but Ethan didn't leave her side entirely. He would appear wherever she went, a glance from across the room, a sudden hand brushing hers when she reached for a glass of water, a whispered compliment when no one else was listening. Each encounter made her heart race and left her breathless. At one point, he guided her toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, away from prying eyes. He pressed a little closer, and she felt the heat of his body against hers. "Do you always make people feel like this?" she asked, half amused, half nervous. "No," he said, his lips very close to hers. "Just the ones I choose." Olivia's heart jumped. She wanted to pull away, but something inside her urged her to stay. The thrill of the unknown, the danger hidden behind his charm. It all made her feel alive. "You're bold," she whispered, her voice catching. "I like bold," he replied, tracing a finger lightly along the edge of her hand. "And you're fearless in a way that I can't ignore." She laughed softly, though her pulse was racing. "I'm not fearless," she said. "I just try not to think too much." "That's perfect," he murmured. "Sometimes thinking too much can ruin everything. Tonight, just let it happen." By the end of the evening, Olivia was dizzy from more than just the champagne. She was dizzy from him, from the way he had appeared in her life like a storm she hadn't expected. He had touched her, whispered to her, made her feel as though she existed in a world she hadn't even imagined. As the guests began to leave, Ethan leaned toward her one last time, his hand brushing her arm. "Tomorrow I'll make sure I see you again. I don't leave things this good to chance." Olivia bit her lip, feeling a strange mix of fear and anticipation. She didn't know what he meant by seeing her again, but she had a feeling it wouldn't be ordinary. Not with Ethan Caldwell. As she walked away, she kept glancing over her shoulder. Ethan's figure remained in her mind, tall, confident, and impossible to forget. Tonight had been just the start, and she could already feel that her life, and her heart, was about to change forever. The next morning, Olivia woke up with her mind still buzzing from last night. Ethan Caldwell. The memory of his presence, the warmth of his touch, and that low, confident voice haunted her. She tried to focus on her training, flipping and stretching in the small gym she had rented near her apartment. But no matter how many routines she ran through, her thoughts kept drifting back to him. Then, just as she was finishing her cool down, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me tonight. Somewhere you can see the stars." Her heart skipped. She hadn't expected this, but something inside her told her to go. Curiosity, excitement, and maybe a little bit of fear combined into a potent mix. That evening, she found herself stepping out of a sleek black car onto the terrace of a luxury rooftop restaurant. Candles flickered in the cool breeze, and the city lights stretched endlessly before her. Standing by the railing was Ethan, looking effortless in a tailored suit, his hair slightly tousled, eyes dark and intense. "You came," he said, smiling, but there was an edge to it, a quiet command that made her pulse quicken. I wasn't sure if I should," Olivia admitted, her hands gripping the railing. "You should have," he replied softly, taking a step closer. "But I'm glad you did. It means something." He gestured toward a private table set apart from everyone else, adorned with a single vase of white lilies. Olivia couldn't help but notice the understated wealth around her, the elegance of the setting, the perfect view, the quiet luxury that screamed power. As they sat, Ethan's conversation was effortless. He asked about her life, her training, and her performances. But every now and then, he would reach out, brushing her hand lightly, letting his thumb trace small circles over her skin. Each touch sent a jolt of electricity through her body. "You move through life like you move on that stage," he said suddenly, leaning close so that she could feel his warm breath. "Graceful, confident. Yet there's a fire under the surface. I like fire." Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. His intensity was overwhelming, and she had no idea how to respond. "I don't know if I'm," she started, but he cut her off with a small smile. "Perfect. You are. Don't talk yourself down. Not to me." As the evening continued, Ethan suggested a spontaneous change of plan. "I know a place," he said, eyes sparkling with mischief. "It's private. Just you, me, and the stars. You'll see things you've never seen before." Olivia hesitated. She didn't know him well, and yet, the pull she felt was irresistible. Before she could think twice, he had taken her hand, guiding her toward the waiting car. The doors opened and the interior revealed leather seats, soft lighting, and a view of the skyline through panoramic windows. She realized, with a mixture of awe and disbelief, that this was no ordinary car. It was a mobile statement of wealth, comfort, and style. As they drove, he reached over, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered on her shoulder for a moment, sending a heat straight to her chest. Olivia swallowed, feeling a strange mix of nervousness and anticipation. "You know," he murmured, his voice low and intimate, "I don't do ordinary. And I don't let people like you slip through my fingers." She glanced at him, confused. "People like me? Strong, talented, fearless, beautiful. You have all the things I want to protect, to admire, to be near." His gaze held hers, intense and unwavering. When they arrived at a secluded overlook, the city stretched out below them, glittering like a field of stars. Ethan handed her a glass of champagne and then, without warning, pulled her close. She felt the heat of his body against hers as he held her, one arm wrapped firmly around her waist. "I like knowing I have your attention," he said, his lips brushing the shell of her ear. "And I want more. I want everything I can give you." Olivia's breath hitched. The proximity, the power, the warmth of him, it was intoxicating. She wanted to pull away, she knew she should, but she couldn't. He spun her slightly so they were facing each other, his hand still holding her close. "Do you trust me?" he asked. I think so," she whispered, feeling her heart racing uncontrollably. "Good," he said with a sly smile, and then pressed a gentle yet firm kiss to her temple. It wasn't a full kiss, not yet, but it was enough to make her knees weaken. They spent the next hours under the stars, talking, laughing, sharing stories. Ethan was full of surprises. He seemed to know how to make every moment unforgettable. He spoke of places he'd traveled, experiences money could buy, but his words weren't brags. They were invitations. Every story, every glance, every touch was a way of drawing her in, showing her the world he inhabited, a world far beyond her imagination. By the time they returned to the city, Olivia felt lightheaded, not from the champagne, but from the overwhelming intensity of his presence. Ethan walked her to her door, but before letting go, he pulled her close again, pressing a warm embrace that took her breath away. "You're staying on my mind," he whispered, his lips close enough for her to feel his words vibrate against her skin. "And I don't forget people like you. Tomorrow I'll see you again. I promise." Olivia watched him walk away, the night air lingering like a shiver down her spine. She leaned against her door, heart racing, mind spinning. This was no ordinary man, and tonight had been no ordinary evening. Ethan Caldwell had entered her life like a storm, charming, dangerous, intoxicating, and she already knew she would never be the same. The following day, Olivia tried to focus on her training, but it was impossible. Every movement felt slow, every flip less sharp, because her mind kept replaying last night. Ethan Caldwell, his hands on her, the way he had whispered into her ear under the stars. She shook her head, trying to convince herself it was just a fleeting moment, a thrill of an encounter. But she knew deep down it was something far more. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. "Meet me. I have something to show you." It's a surprise. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She typed a hesitant reply. "Where?" "Private. You'll see soon enough." She arrived at the small private airstrip a few hours later, dressed casually in leggings and a hoodie, unsure what to expect. There waiting was a sleek private jet, gleaming in the sunlight, engines ready. Ethan stood at the stairs, impeccably dressed even for this informal setting, hands in his pockets, watching her approach with that same intense gaze that had haunted her thoughts for days. "You came," he said simply, the corner of his lips curving into a faint smile. I didn't know what to expect," Olivia admitted, feeling her stomach flutter. "Expect the unexpected," he replied, stepping closer. He handed her a small bag and brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. The warmth of his touch made her pulse race. Once aboard, the jet hummed to life. Ethan guided her to plush leather seats that faced each other, a bottle of champagne waiting between them. The interior was luxurious but understated, every detail carefully thought out. Olivia could hardly believe it. "I don't do ordinary," he said, watching her reaction. "I wanted to show you something private, something you won't forget." The jet took off, soaring above the city. Olivia stared out the window, watching Manhattan shrink beneath her, feeling a thrill of exhilaration and fear. But it wasn't the altitude that made her heart pound. It was Ethan sitting across from her, leaning slightly forward, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're tense," he said softly. "Relax. Just enjoy it." "I'm not tense," she said, though her voice trembled slightly. "Yes, you are," he said with a teasing smile. He reached out, brushing her hand with his fingertips. Olivia felt a jolt, like electricity racing through her veins. I'm not used to this," she admitted, her cheeks warming. "I'll get you used to it," he murmured, leaning closer, the heat of his body radiating toward her. "I like seeing you like this, caught between fear and thrill. It suits you." Her heart skipped a beat. The way he spoke, the way he moved, it was as if he was carefully pulling her into a world where she didn't need to worry. Yet every moment felt dangerous, exciting, impossible. Hours passed as the jet carried them away from the city. Ethan pointed out tiny islands and coastlines below, telling stories of trips he had taken, places he had visited. But Olivia noticed it wasn't the places themselves that mattered. It was the way he made everything feel extraordinary. The casual elegance of his movements, the effortless power in his voice, the subtle touches that made her pulse race. Every detail drew her closer to him. At one point, he stood and walked over, resting a hand lightly on the back of her seat. Olivia looked up at him, her stomach twisting in anticipation. "You have no idea how much I want to protect you," he said quietly. "To keep you safe, to show you things no one else will ever see. And to be close to you." Before she could respond, he lowered his head and pressed his lips briefly to her temple. Just a whisper of a kiss, but it left her breathless. Olivia's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the armrests, heart racing in a way she had never experienced. "You're different," he murmured, pulling back slightly to look at her face. "Bold, fearless, but also alive in ways most people aren't. And I can't ignore that. Not you." Her pulse pounded. She had no words, only a feeling. An undeniable attraction that terrified and thrilled her at the same time. The rest of the flight was filled with soft touches, lingering glances and moments that made her breath hitch. He guided her gently, sometimes pressing her against the seat with a casual hand on her lower back, other times brushing a strand of hair from her face, letting his fingers linger just a moment too long. Each gesture, though subtle, carried intent, his intent. By the time they landed in the remote coastal town Ethan had chosen, Olivia felt dizzy with excitement, nerves, and anticipation. The town was picturesque, tucked between the ocean and rolling hills, with a private villa waiting for them. Ethan led her inside, and Olivia's jaw nearly dropped. The villa was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a terrace overlooking the sea, and rooms filled with soft light and elegant decor. "This is incredible," she breathed, turning in awe. "You deserve it," he said, walking close behind her. He reached out, lightly pressing his hand against her back as if guiding her through the space. "You inspire me, Olivia. And I don't waste time when something or someone inspires me." She could feel his presence behind her, steady and commanding, yet comforting. Olivia tried to calm her racing heart, but it was impossible. The entire experience, the flight, the villa, the intensity of his attention was overwhelming. Later, as the sun set over the ocean, Ethan led her to the terrace. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. He took her hand in both of his, lifting it gently to his lips. "Tonight," he said softly, "I want you to see the world through my eyes. Just for a moment, forget everything else. Let me show you everything I can offer. If you'll let me." Olivia looked at him, heart racing, unsure what to say. She had no idea what this night would bring, but she knew one thing. Ethan Caldwell had completely captivated her. Every glance, every touch, every whispered word was drawing her closer to him, and she had no desire to pull away. The sun had barely risen when Olivia awoke, sunlight spilling through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the villa. The soft sound of waves crashing against the cliffs below filled the room, but it wasn't the serene morning that made her pulse quicken. It was the memory of last night. Ethan's hands, his whispers, the way he had held her close as if the world outside didn't exist. She was stretching, loosening her muscles for a morning routine, when the soft chime of her phone made her startle. A text from Ethan. "Breakfast on the terrace. Then I have something important to show you. Don't be late." Her stomach flipped. He sounded serious, yet that single letter at the end made her think of him, and her pulse quickened just reading it. When she arrived, he was already there, leaning casually against the railing, the ocean breeze ruffling his hair. He looked effortlessly perfect, white shirt slightly unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, the sunlight catching in his dark eyes. "Good morning," he said, his voice low, almost teasing. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as I could," Olivia replied, trying to sound casual, though her heart was still racing. Ethan's eyes softened, and he extended his hand. "Come with me. I want to show you something." They walked down a private path to a secluded beach. The villa was high above, hidden among cliffs, but this small stretch of sand felt like a secret world. Olivia felt a thrill at being there, alone with him, miles from anyone else. But the calm of the scene didn't last. A black SUV appeared in the distance, slowing as it approached. Ethan's eyes narrowed, and his entire posture changed. Olivia caught a flash of something she hadn't seen before. A protective, dangerous edge. "Stay close," he murmured, his hand gripping hers, pulling her just behind him. The strangers in the SUV slowed, as if watching them before turning and leaving. Olivia's heart pounded. Who were they? She asked, voice trembling. People who shouldn't bother us, he said simply. And they won't. Not while I'm here. He pulled her close, one arm around her shoulders, holding her against his chest. Olivia felt the heat of him, strong and solid, grounding her even as adrenaline raced through her. His protective stance made her feel simultaneously safe and vulnerable, her body responding to the closeness she couldn't resist. You're terrifying, she whispered, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. No, he replied softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'm just careful about what matters. You matter. The intensity of his gaze made her shiver. Olivia wanted to pull away, but his warmth, his presence made it impossible. Without warning, he turned, lifting her slightly off the ground in a playful yet commanding gesture, and spun her around. She laughed, breathless, their bodies pressed together, and he set her down, holding her hand tightly. Do you see? He asked, his voice low, almost a growl. I won't let anything touch you. Not here. Not anywhere. Olivia's chest heaved. The danger she had glimpsed a moment ago had disappeared, replaced by his dominant presence. She felt the raw intensity of his protection, and it thrilled her in ways she hadn't expected. For the rest of the morning, Ethan guided her through the private beach, their fingers brushing, sometimes lacing together. He was both gentle and commanding, showing her small luxuries. A hidden cove, a tide pool with colorful fish, the way the sun hit the cliffs just right. But beneath the beauty there was tension. He was alert, scanning the horizon, aware of every detail, every movement. At one point he pulled her against a rock wall, his hand pressing firmly against her lower back. Look at me, he whispered. Olivia did, caught in his dark eyes. I don't do ordinary. I don't waste time. And I don't leave people I care about unprotected. Her pulse raced. His proximity, the brush of his lips near her temple, the firm hold of his hands, it was overwhelming. She realized she was trembling, not from fear, but from the intensity of the connection between them. Ethan bent slightly, his lips brushing against her ear. Tonight I'll make sure you feel safe and mine. Olivia's breath caught. The words, low and intimate, sent shivers down her spine. The world around them, the waves, the cliffs, the sunlight, faded. All she could feel was him. He didn't release her immediately. Instead, he held her long and firm, letting her feel the strength and warmth of him. Olivia felt the heat building between them, the electric current of his touch, and realized she didn't want him to let go. After a long moment, he finally stepped back, his hands lingering near hers. He gave her a small, almost mischievous smile. We're just getting started, he said. You'll see more. You'll feel more. And I promise it will be unforgettable. Olivia's chest heaved. She was exhausted, exhilarated, and trembling in a way that had nothing to do with the morning air. She had no idea what he had planned next, but she knew it would be bold, impossible, and completely captivating. By the time they returned to the villa, Olivia's mind was spinning. Ethan Caldwell had shown her a glimpse of danger, protection, and raw passion all at once. And she knew without a doubt that her life was changing, and there was no turning back. The villa was quiet that evening, the sun sinking into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Olivia sat on the terrace, legs tucked beneath her, sipping a glass of wine, watching the waves crash against the cliffs below. Her heart was still racing from the day's events, the morning confrontation, the private moments with Ethan, the way he had held her as if nothing else in the world mattered. Ethan approached quietly, his presence filling the space without a word. He handed her a plate with a small dessert, a soft smile on his lips. I thought you might be hungry, he said, settling beside her. His shoulder brushed hers, sending a familiar shiver down her spine. Thank you, Olivia whispered, her voice low. She looked at him, hesitant, unsure how to put into words what she felt. The intensity of the past days had shaken her in ways she hadn't anticipated. Ethan tilted his head, studying her. You've been quiet, he said softly. Thinking. Olivia nodded. About everything. You. This whirlwind. He reached out, taking her hand gently, their fingers intertwining. "Tell me," he said. "Don't hold back." Her breath caught. She wanted to speak, but the words felt trapped in her throat. Finally she said, "I don't know what this is, or what I should feel, but I can't stop thinking about you. Every moment with you is different, intense, terrifying, and thrilling." Ethan's dark eyes softened, but the intensity never left them. "You think that's intense?" he asked. "Olivia, you have no idea what you do to me. Every move you make, every glance, it pulls me in. I don't want to fight it anymore." She looked at him, heart pounding, unsure if she should step back or surrender. But Ethan leaned closer, his hand brushing a strand of hair from her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone gently. "I don't care about ordinary," he whispered. "I don't care about caution or waiting. I only care about you. Right here. Right now." Her pulse raced, and for a moment the world fell away. She could feel the heat of his body, the strength in his arms, the pull of his presence. She wanted him, wanted to trust him, wanted to let go of everything that held her back. Ethan's lips hovered near hers, teasing, testing, and finally, he pressed a soft, lingering kiss to her lips. Olivia's knees weakened. She wrapped her arms around his neck, letting herself melt into the warmth of him. The kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, full of promise and passion. When they finally pulled back, both breathless, Olivia rested her forehead against his. I didn't think something like this could happen to me," she admitted. "Neither did I," he murmured. "But here we are. And I'm not letting it go." Their moment was interrupted by the distant sound of tires on gravel, a reminder that the outside world still existed. Ethan's expression hardened for a split second. Olivia noticed the flicker of concern, a protective edge she had seen before. "Stay behind me," he said quietly, his voice low and serious. "I'll handle it." A man appeared near the villa entrance, shadowed and uncertain. Ethan's posture shifted instantly, calm, controlled, yet dangerous. He stepped between Olivia and the man, his presence commanding. "This isn't your business," he said smoothly, but there was steel under the words. The man hesitated, then slowly backed away, disappearing down the path. Olivia's heart was pounding, not just from fear, but from the intensity of seeing him protect her so effortlessly. Ethan turned to her, his usual confident smile returning, though his eyes were still sharp. "See," he said softly, brushing her hair back from her face. "I told you. I won't let anything touch you." She leaned into him, resting against his chest. "I trust you," she whispered, though the truth went deeper than that. She didn't just trust him. She needed him. Ethan lifted her chin gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Good," he said. "Because I'm not done with you. Not tonight. Not ever." The night unfolded with a blend of tenderness and fiery passion. Ethan guided her into the villa, the warmth of his hands never leaving her. He traced gentle lines along her back, kissed her neck softly, then pressed her against the wall in a strong protective embrace. Each touch, each movement was deliberate, meant to ignite desire and cement trust simultaneously. Olivia let herself be swept away. She leaned into him, their bodies fitting together as if they were meant to. His lips trailed along her jaw, neck, and finally to hers, deep and passionate. Her hands clutched his shoulders as if holding onto him could make her own heartbeat steady. Hours passed in a blur of whispered words, soft laughter, and shared closeness. They explored not just physical connection, but emotional honesty. Ethan revealing glimpses of the life he led, the responsibilities he bore, and the rare vulnerability he only showed to those he trusted completely. Olivia, in turn, shared her fears, dreams, and the deep longing she felt for something extraordinary. By the time the first light of dawn began to streak the sky, they were still entwined, hearts and breaths mingled. The villa was quiet, but the air between them was charged, as if the world outside had ceased to exist entirely. Ethan held her, his forehead resting against hers. "I don't care about the world," he whispered. "I only care about you, and I'll prove it. Every day." Olivia looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "I believe you," she said softly, realizing that she had never felt so safe, so alive, and so utterly captivated by someone. And in that moment, despite the hints of danger that had already brushed their lives, Olivia knew one thing with absolute certainty. Ethan Caldwell had become the center of her world, and she was ready to see where this storm, this passion, and this incredible love would take her.